It always starts quietly. She laughs a little less at your jokes. Her phone stays face down on the table. The hugs feel shorter, the eye contact briefer. You tell yourself it's just stress, work, hormones, anything but what your gut is whispering. You still love her. You still think you're on the same team. But somewhere between school runs, mortgages, and the comfort of routine, something invisible has shifted. Most men don't realize this transformation is happening until it's too late. They wake up one morning beside a woman who feels more like a stranger than a partner. The same woman who once couldn't get enough of him now flinches at his touch, rolls her eyes at his presence, and seems lost in a world he can't access. What you think is a midlife slump is actually something far more dangerous. The slow erosion of attraction, driven by forces most men never see coming. It's biological, emotional, and cultural all merging into a perfect storm that turns affection into resentment. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because if you don't understand this quiet shift, if you ignore the early warning signs, you risk becoming another man blindsided by the question that haunts so many. Why does she suddenly seem to hate me? And the real twist. It's not that she's lost interest in you. It's that she's rediscovered her interest in something else entirely. You think she's losing interest because of routine? The same dinners, the same bed, the same life on repeat. But what's really happening runs much deeper. Her biology is quietly rewriting the rules. Around the age of 40, something shifts beneath the surface. Hormones that once balanced her emotions and desires begin to fluctuate like a faulty signal. Estrogen drops, dopamine dips, and suddenly her inner world feels unstable, restless, unpredictable. To her, it's confusing. She might not even understand why she's irritable or dissatisfied. But biologically, there's a subconscious panic. Her body senses time closing in. The primal instinct that once drove her to bond, nurture, and build stability starts whispering a different message. Move. Change. Seek new excitement. It's like her biology is screaming for one last dance before the music stops. This isn't vanity, it's survival wiring. For thousands of years, a woman's reproductive value was tied to youth and fertility. Even though we live in a modern world with careers, comfort, and choices, her body still plays by ancient rules. When that ticking clock grows loud, it tells her, you're running out of time to feel alive, desired, chosen. And for many, that urgency doesn't translate into gratitude for what they have, becomes restlessness for what they might be missing. So, when she starts snapping at her husband, withdrawing affection, or idealizing younger men, it's rarely conscious betrayal. It's projection. Her frustration isn't really about him, it's about herself, about aging, about the silent grief of watching her reflection change. He becomes the symbol of everything routine, stable, and familiar, while her fading youth begs for contrast, for chaos, for spark. Most men misread this as a personal rejection. They double down, buy flowers, plan vacations, work harder to fix it. But you can't fight biology with effort alone. What she's battling isn't boredom, it's a primal fear of fading relevance. And that's where the danger begins. Because when a woman starts feeling invisible to the world, she'll either rebuild her value through loyalty and growth, or she'll chase the fleeting thrill that convinces her she still has it. He thought everything was fine. He worked hard, paid the bills, kept the house running. He wasn't perfect, but he was consistent. A good man doing what he believed a husband should do. Yet, somewhere between the daily grind and the quiet evenings in front of the TV, something intangible began to fade. She stopped smiling at him the same way. Conversations turned practical, not personal. The warmth that once glued them together slowly cooled into routine. Most men miss this shift because it doesn't explode, erodes. It's not a fight, it's a silence. Not a betrayal, it's a withdrawal. What she once saw as stability now feels like emotional distance. What he views as devotion showing up, working hard, staying loyal, she starts to interpret as disconnection. It's like emotional debt accumulating one unpaid moment at a time. Over the years, small disappointments compound. The compliment he didn't give, the touch he stopped initiating, the dream she abandoned while supporting his. She doesn't scream about it. she buries it until that buried resentment becomes its own language, spoken through sighs, sarcasm, or apathy. This is where the danger hides. Because resentment, once it hardens, transforms into contempt, and contempt is the death rattle of attraction. The husband still sees himself as reliable, but she now sees him as lifeless. The man she once admired becomes invisible, not because he changed, but because he stopped surprising her. If you don't recognize these subtle shifts early, resentment calcifies into something far more permanent. By the time most men realize what's happening, it's not just emotional distance, it's emotional divorce. She's already checked out in her mind, rewriting the story of the relationship in a way that justifies her detachment. And while he's trying to fix the symptoms, buying gifts, planning getaways, she's already mourning the excitement she used to feel. She doesn't crave a new man yet. She craves a new feeling. That's why the next phase becomes so dangerous. Because once she starts searching for that feeling again, she won't look backward, she'll look somewhere new. When she starts craving validation outside the marriage, the countdown has already begun. It rarely happens overnight. Starts subtly, a friendly compliment from a coworker, a laugh exchanged with a younger trainer, a moment of attention that feels electric compared to the quiet indifference at home. To her, it's not just about the man, it's about what he reflects back. In his eyes, she sees the woman she used to be, vibrant, noticed, desirable to her. He's not just younger, he's a symbol of who she used to be, the energy she once carried effortlessly. The spark, that time and responsibility dulled. Younger men don't just represent youth, they represent possibility. They remind her that she's still visible in a world that's starting to look past her. Psychologically, validation is one of the most intoxicating forms of emotional currency. It's not the flirtation itself that hooks her, it's the contrast. At home, everything feels predictable. Her husband's love is safe but stale. He doesn't chase her anymore. He assumes her presence. But outside the marriage, every compliment feels like oxygen after years of emotional suffocation. She begins to confuse attention with connection, mistaking admiration for affection. That temporary high becomes addictive, not because she wants another man, but because she wants to feel wanted again. And that's where many women in their 40s cross a dangerous emotional threshold. Most men never see it coming. They're still operating under the belief that loyalty is proof of love, that as long as there's no affair, the marriage is fine. But validation doesn't need physical betrayal to poison intimacy. Once she starts seeking emotional hits from someone else, her mind begins rewriting the narrative. Maybe I settled too soon. Maybe I deserve more. Maybe I can still start over. This is the quiet beginning of the end. Because once a woman starts chasing the reflection of her younger self in someone else's eyes, she stops looking at her husband altogether. For her, the younger man isn't a replacement. He's a mirror. And in that mirror, she sees youth, possibility, excitement, and most dangerously, escape. And while he wonders what went wrong, she's already chasing the ghost of the woman she fears she's losing forever. They call it empowerment. But for many men, it's emotional bankruptcy. In today's culture, women entering their 40s aren't told to reflect, rebuild, or deepen their relationships. They're told to rediscover themselves, which too often translates into abandon what you've built and chase what you've lost. From glossy magazine covers to influencer reels, the message is everywhere. You're not getting older. You're just getting started. The subtext: your husband, your family, to your commitments. They're what's holding you back. TV shows and celebrity headlines glorify this midlife rebellion. You see actresses proudly announcing divorces as self-love journeys. Influencers post about finding freedom, while subtly erasing the men who once built that stability with them. Even pop culture pushes the same script. Movies where the 45-year-old heroine leaves her safe, reliable husband for a younger man who makes her feel alive again. It's a seductive narrative, and it sells because it preys on insecurity, the fear of aging, the fading attention, the quiet panic of irrelevance. Instead of addressing those fears with maturity or emotional growth, society offers an easy fix: reinvent yourself by burning it all down. This narrative has convinced millions of women to destroy what they spent decades building. It tells them that the path to happiness lies not in depth, but in novelty. Not in gratitude, but in escape. What used to be called a midlife crisis has been rebranded as empowerment. But the wreckage looks the same. Broken families, disoriented children, and men who can't understand how decades of loyalty became a liability. Contrast that with the message men receive. No one tells them to rediscover themselves by walking away. When men hit a midlife wall, they're told to work harder, provide more, suppress emotion. But when women feel the same restlessness, the world cheers them for starting over. And so, the cycle continues. Men lose trust, women lose fulfillment, and society profits off the chaos. Because a stable marriage doesn't sell ads, but a woman starting fresh at 42 inches sure does. And while she's chasing freedom, she rarely realizes the truth until it's too late that what she's running from is not her husband, but her own reflection. It's 2 a.m. The house is silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator. He's sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone in his hands, scrolling through messages he wishes he'd never seen. Nothing explicit, just laughter emojis, compliments from someone who shouldn't be giving them. His chest tightens, not from jealousy, but confusion. He did everything right. He worked hard, stayed loyal, paid the bills, kept the house standing. Wasn't that what a good husband was supposed to do? Yet, somehow, doing everything right feels like the very thing that destroyed him. The more he provided, the more invisible he became. The steadier he stood, the less she seemed to notice. Somewhere along the line, the very stability he built turned into the cage she wanted to escape. Society calls men like him boring, predictable, unromantic. But what they call boring is actually masculine. Consistency, the quiet reliability that keeps families from falling apart. It's the same quality that women claim they want until they have it, and then confuse security for stagnation. He replays the years in his mind, the sacrifices, the birthdays he worked through, the arguments he swallowed to keep the peace. He thought love was about endurance, about staying power. But now, as he watches his wife drift toward excitement instead of loyalty, he realizes something brutal. Endurance without passion becomes invisible. This is the chaos no one prepares men for. The moment when stability becomes the enemy, when everything he built becomes the backdrop of her dissatisfaction. He's not angry yet. He's still in shock, still trying to make sense of a world that punishes reliability and rewards novelty. And as he sits there, staring at her sleeping beside him, one haunting question echoes in his mind. If being a good man isn't enough, then what is? Most men never realize this truth. They just watch it happen and blame themselves. They think she's fallen for some younger man because he's fitter, funnier, more spontaneous. But the painful reality is this: she's not chasing him. She's chasing her lost reflection. To her, the younger man isn't just youth embodied. He's time travel. He represents a version of herself she misses desperately. Carefree, seen, desirable, unburdened by duty. When he looks at her with awe, she sees the woman she once was reflected back, the sparkle in her eyes, the laughter that used to come easily, the confidence that didn't need permission. It's not about the man. It's about the mirror. Because every woman, whether she admits it or not, knows when the spotlight begins to dim. Compliments come less often. Eyes don't linger the same way. Social media quietly reminds her that the world worships youth, and she's aging out of that religion. So when a younger man offers even a flicker of admiration, it feels intoxicating, a brief return to relevance. But the illusion never lasts. Time is undefeated, and no amount of attention can turn back the clock. What she's truly chasing isn't a partner. It's validation, the reassurance that she still matters. And that pursuit can be devastating, because the more she chases youth externally, the further she drifts from peace internally. For the husband watching this unfold, it feels like betrayal. But understanding the illusion gives you clarity. She's not replacing you. She's trying to replace time. And that's a fight no one wins. The tragedy is that most men never recognize this deeper truth. They internalize her wandering attention as proof of their inadequacy, instead of seeing it for what it is: her silent war against her own fading reflection. The younger man, He's just the mirror. The spark she's trying to reignite is her own. And by the time she realizes that, reflection can't be recaptured, only accepted. The damage is often already done. This is the point where most men either crumble or awaken. When the woman you love starts slipping away, every instinct screams at you to chase, to fix, to prove your worth. But that's the trap. The more you chase, the more she retreats. You don't win her back by pleading for validation. You win by becoming someone she has to chase again. The truth is, traction isn't maintained through comfort. It thrives on polarity, emotional tension, mystery, the sense that you could walk away if you needed to. Somewhere along the way, many men traded their edge for approval. They forgot that desire isn't born from compliance, but from confidence. So how do you reclaim that power? First, stop over-validating. Every "what's wrong" and "do you still love me" drains your masculine energy. Instead, reclaim your focus. Work out, lead. Pursue a mission outside of her. When you become obsessed with growth, she either respects your direction or exposes her disinterest. Both outcomes give you power. Second, reestablish emotional polarity. Stop being predictable. Speak less. Move with purpose. Make decisions without hesitation. The masculine frame isn't about dominance over her. It's about mastery over yourself. When you hold that steady energy, she feels it, even if she can't explain why she's drawn back. Finally, remember that mystery is not manipulation, it's magnetism. Leave space for curiosity. Stop giving endless reassurance. Let her feel that your attention is earned, not owed. You don't have to become cruel or distant. You just have to stop being the man who begs to be seen and start being the man who cannot be ignored. Because the paradox of attraction is this: the moment you no longer need her validation, that's when she starts craving yours again. Acceptance is the first step. Not resignation, not bitterness, but clarity. Understanding female nature, that desire is fleeting, attention is scarce, and admiration must be earned, is not a curse. It's a tool. The men who master this truth stop being victims of circumstance and start shaping their own lives on their terms. Adaptation follows. You can't control her choices, but you can control your value, your energy, and your focus. Invest in your health, your mission, and your personal growth. Build a life so compelling that you are the prize, not the man constantly seeking approval. When you move with purpose, confidence, and emotional mastery, you create polarity naturally. Women notice it. More importantly, you notice your own strength. Ascend. This is not about revenge or proving her wrong. It's about transcending dependency and reclaiming your masculine power. The heartbreaks of the past become lessons. The frustrations of the present become fuel. And every step forward is a declaration: I am the architect of my life, and my worth is never defined by someone else's attention. Those who refuse to adapt will keep reliving the same heartbreak, different faces, same story. But men who accept, adapt, and ascend become unshakable. They create families, careers, and legacies rooted in their own strength. They walk through life with calm certainty, knowing desire is won through action and mastery, not pleading. This is the new masculine mindset. Stoic, unshakable, forward-looking. It is freedom, power, and fulfillment. And it begins the moment you stop chasing and start leading. Here's the truth most men never hear. A woman's midlife rebellion isn't personal. It isn't about your failures or shortcomings. It's biological, psychological, and amplified by a culture that glorifies rediscovery and attention-seeking. The subtle shifts, the cravings for validation, the allure of younger men, they are part of a pattern that has been unfolding for decades. But understanding this gives you power. You can reclaim awareness, set boundaries, and focus on your mission. You can stop reacting and start leading your life with clarity, purpose, and unshakable masculinity. Now is the moment to act. Comment with your story. Subscribe to stay ahead of the patterns most men never see, and share this message with those who need it. Because understanding this truth now could save you years of pain later and transform how you navigate love, desire, and life itself.